I agree. Let's move on. Special teams.
Oh, God.
So obviously they got a right hook to them right at the beginning of the game when the kicker, Robbie Gould, ended up having a groin injury. And all of a sudden, Wisniewski is like, hey, you're not only our punter, you're our field goal kicker now as well. And so let's talk about it. I mean,
let's talk about it. It seemed like it was setting up for Mitch to be the MVP. I even tweeted that out early in the game. I was like, Mitch, my man, he's about to crush this game. He's going to hit an extra point, a field goal, make a tackle. You know, he's handling kickoffs and punts. Dude's just doing everything because that's how Australian rugby players do.
Right.
And then it just didn't quite turn out that way. And through no fault of Mitch's own, right? It's not fair to expect Mitch Wisniewski to hit a 41-yard field goal or a 38-yard extra point. Those are not things that you expect him to hit. You hope he can. It's why he practices that, is in this case of emergency, you have him there to attempt it, but you cannot be confident going into it. So I thought that there were two significant factors that contributed to the 49ers losing this very lopsided game that should have been a lopsided victory. And I thought special teams was absolutely one of them. Robbie Gould being out with the injury, that's a killer. Them announcing it so late that I couldn't take him out of 4 of my starting lineups in fantasy football, also a killer. Let me say that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, it's I'm a homer, so I've got to, I got to get the kicker in there because Robbie's usually pretty money. And so with Mitch in there as the kicker, the idea that we're still attempting kicks, I don't know whether to throw this on Coach Hightower or Coach Shanahan for being the one that says, hey, like, what are the odds Mitch makes this? And then predicting that incorrectly, because clearly that kick was off from the start. The missed field goal, the false start on the 2-point try, and then the missed extra point right after that, the fumbled kick return, the push out of bounds for the touchback instead of downing at the 2. It was atrocious across the board. I give him a whopping F for this one. I give him an F- if there was such a thing.
Right. Can't argue with you, man. There was nothing that saved face for this special teams group that you can say can up a grade from an F. They clearly were the group that had the biggest, took points off the board and put points on the board for them. And I think when you're seeing that type of stuff in a game that ended up being the difference was just 1 touchdown, that is a killer. And there's 3 phases of this game. And I think the defense definitely played well enough for us to win. The offense, not so much, but weren't necessarily atrocious to the point that they still played well enough for us to be able to win. But this special teams definitely did not play well enough for us to be able to win. And they were, I think, the deciding factor, as you said. And whether that is, obviously it's really tough when your field goal kicker is out. But
Right.
And maybe we're going to be talking about it next. I don't know. It's not like Mitch is out there saying, I'm ready to, put me in. Like he's being told to be out there. So he's just doing what he needs to do. But Robbie Gould has trouble kicking 45-yard field goals. So to have Mitch go out there and do that, to me, it was just insane. You got to go for it on 4th. What are we doing?
Come on. My wife, when they went for the extra point instead of going for 2, even though it was now going to be from the 7-yard for the try, my wife was like, that's stupid. What are they doing? Why are they not still going for 2? Like, what the hell? And so when you have someone who may not be extremely well versed in what one might want to do from a coaching perspective, calling out the absurdity of what's happening on the field, that just goes to show you that it should have been an obvious choice. Regardless of the false start penalty, you're still going for 2 at that point because you don't want to have Mitch kicking a 38-yard extra point after he just missed from 41.
So great segue, because you are talking about decision-making, and that decision-making falls with one group and one group only, and that is the coaches. So, Rob, you so eloquently just made a point. Let us further move on to that point and talk about what you felt about these coaches and the type of grades you gave them.
All right. So I initially, my thought was, well, this is an F, right? I mean, it just is. The coaching was terrible this game. But the reality is that of the three coaches who control the three phases of the game, one of them crushed it. And so it's unfair to give the entire coaching tree an F. But the other performances in my book, aside from D'Amico Ryans, who came to play on Sunday, the other performances by Kyle and Richard Hightower were so poor that I still gave them a D-. So even though D'Amico comes in and I'm giving him high praise, even though he had a bounce back game after Green Bay, he disguised coverages the way in which I wished he had done it against Aaron Rodgers. He had an answer for the chips on Bosa's. A lot of positives here for D'Amico, but everything else was so frustrating. The special teams was so terrible, and Kyle's offense was so disjointed. Perhaps it's the damaged emotions within me after that loss on Sunday, but I had to go D- because I was just so disappointed at the product we're seeing on the field. To have dominated in that fashion statistically and still walk away with a full one-score loss, that's rough.
Yeah, I think D'Amico Ryans called an amazing game.
Yes.
And that defense, like I said, played well enough to be able to get this win, and they were left hanging by the special teams and the offense in this game. And I don't know if you guys have seen, there's an article up that I wrote that was up on Tuesday, I believe. Is Kyle Shanahan truly an offensive genius? And let me lay it out for you, Rob. Against Detroit, the Detroit Lions give up 31 points per game. The 49ers scored 41 points in that game. However, 7 of those points was a pick six. They only put up 34 points to a 31-point defense that's giving up 31 points every single game. Against the Eagles give up 21 points. 49ers scored 17 points. Against Green Bay gives up 28 points. 49ers scored 28 points. Against the Seahawks defense gives up 26 points per game, and the offense the offense scored 21 points. So that is playing at average or below average of what these defenses give. And the promise has been, we have an offensive genius. The promise has been, the reason why this offense hasn't been humming is because we don't have starting quarterback caliber play. Those aren't issues at this point. So if we're still under providing offense for this team, and we have an offensive guru supposedly as our head coach, is he really a guru? Cliff Kingsbury, who everybody wants to make the butt of every single joke, is an offensive-minded coach. How's that offense looking in Arizona right now, Rob?
Pretty damn good.
Are they underperforming against every single defense?
No.
Now, do they have a better quarterback? Absolutely.
Yes.
However, for Cliff Kingsbury to get the type of lack of praise that he gets and being the butt of every single joke, and Kyle Shanahan to be considered an offensive guru, to me, something doesn't make sense, because men lie, women lie, numbers do not lie, and the numbers show to me that this offense sucks. It is not good. It is not a good offense. And to me, if the defense, the last 5 years, what has been better for our team, the defense or the offensive, Rob?
Absolutely the defense.
For an offensive-minded coach to have two different defensive coordinators and the defense still be the strength of the team, to me, something is off. Something is off, Rob. And you can't keep blaming injuries. You can't keep blaming the players and execution. At a certain point, it falls on the shoulder of the head coach, and the head coach is Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan gets an F, and D'Amico Ryans to me gets an A. I'm still giving it a D- because throw in the special teams F as well. D'Amico Ryans is the only reason, just like you said, that this wasn't a total F. This should have been a game that we won. We had a better team. They performed at a higher level. However, this offense is still terrible. It is terrible. It is terrible. And because of that, we are now a 2-2 team. Harold Murillo had put up earlier that this team could have easily been 4-0. I disagree. This team could easily be 0-4 because there are coin flip plays away that went our way instead of the other way. And we are a 2-2 team that easily is performing at an 0-4 level. And
yeah, you could argue either one of those are true statements, right? We could be 4-0, we could be 0-4 because that's sort of the nature of the NFL with how close the games are. And the reality is you are what your record says you are, and that's 2-2. And while it's not as bad as 0-4, when you look at the expectations for these teams, for this team, 2-2 is still pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
2-2 with who we faced to this point, the types of games that have been played, how close they have been, how disjointed that offense has been, 2-2 feels bad.
And we haven't seen a good performance from total football, all phases of the game, 4 quarters of good 49er football still hasn't been put together. And look, the first quarter of the season is done now.
Yeah.
And look, we've only beat non-playoff teams, and the playoff teams we've lost to. So that's saying something about the caliber of team. I think this record is more about the caliber of team that they played versus the caliber of team that we are. We are not a quality team right now, and things need to change very, very quickly. Otherwise, we're not making the playoffs this season.
I agree with that last statement. If things don't change quickly, the 49ers will not make the playoffs. I disagree in that I think this is still a quality football team that's just not playing like a quality football team. To me, that difference is that at some point the light could come on. I'm not saying it necessarily will at any point this season. You could go the entire year and they could look as bad as they have to this point. But the talent is there. And so that's why you raise an interesting question about Kyle Shanahan. Even if the offensive genius is there, is he a great head coach? Because to this point, he's not able to maximize the efficiency of the players on his team. And if you look at the injury history, now that he's been with the team for his 5th year, you have to attribute that choice of bringing back injured players to him, right? It's his regime that have made these choices to continually bring back these players. So I agree. The excuses are running out.
This isn't Chip Kelly's team. This isn't Tom Sousa's team. This isn't Harbaugh's team. This is Kyle Shanahan's team.
Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's team, for sure.
For better or worse, you get the praise, but you also get all of the criticism as well. So you got to take it like a champ. Harold Murillo, I love your optimism. 49ers can still turn it around. Look, I am Scrooge McDuck right now, and I want you to be the truth, man. I want that to be the truth.